Howdy y'all, Muglax Lives. I think it's time to play a little 7 Days to Die. I feel tall. Weird. I'm not, but I feel tall. Hmm. Some kind of illusion. Alright, so I need bullet supplies. That is what I need. Let's go get some bullet supplies. Let's fall off the ladder and nearly die. I think the last time I went for... Wait a minute. Having flashbacks. Oh, right. I think, I remember now. Oh, and I need to go get something to eat now. Jeez. So, I ran the D&D game this week. Those guys, I basically play with the same guys every other week. And I feel like we remember all the stuff from the weeks that I'm not the DM. But when I'm in the DM, they don't pay any attention to what's going on. And it was a little bizarre last night. Well, I'm running it, so I'm not playing a character, and so they had ended they had ended as a with like 2 rooms left in the dungeon, which is fine because people gotta quit. People gotta quit. Um, you never know how long that fight's gonna take. It definitely took longer than it should have. The one guy, he is so afraid that his character will take damage that he does anything he can to make sure he is nowhere near bad guys, just constantly. And it drives me crazy. I'm not gonna lie. It drives me very crazy at how, I don't mean like normal cautious, but like he won't use abilities because if he uses the ability, then he won't be able to run away around a corner so nothing can see him. And oh, this is lead. I mean, I need lead, but lead is not the thing that I specifically came after. I came for coal and nitrate powder. And it just, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird to me how much it runs away. I mean, I've told this story before about how he left us all to die by running away. I'm not going to tell it again right now. I'm sure I'll tell it again someday, but it is still one of the most angering moments that ever occurred for me in the multiple years I've been playing D&D now. And but so last night they get there and they've only got 2 rooms left. One of them has got these zombies that burst one time when you hit them. And it's annoying, sure, but it's not like super life-threatening. But oh, he instead of running up to attack them, he stayed 10 feet away, and and so um, it didn't help him. And he threw his daggers, but the zombies, the first time they're attacked, the first time they take damage, they burst and hit anything within 15 feet of them. And so, because they're gross zombies. All right, where? Oh, there we go. And so, it gets him, right? Oh, well, then that shuts him down. He is basically done for the rest of the fight. Just freaking out, taking like the longest turns ever, trying to decide where he can move to both attack and not get attacked. He's playing a melee character, like a guy who normally would get into melee range and attack. But no, not him. No, his character can't get anywhere near a bad guy because he might take a little bit of damage that heals back. It's not like it's permanent. I just don't understand his unwillingness to fight in the game. His number one thought is to run away every time. Every time. And then he's like, I don't do that. And we're like, dude, you based an entire character around running away. What are you talking about? No, I didn't. I'm like, yeah, you did. Remember the monk with the mobile feet? Well, yeah, but he was based around the mobile feet. I'm like, yeah, so you could run away. So, you were the only melee character in the group. I had to redo, basically, two of my characters so that we could pick up the slack for someone who would stand in front of people to stop the bad guys from hitting the casters. Anyways, that's not the story. That's not the story. The story is the time that he ran away and left us to die. But anyways, so they're fighting. They get through the fight. He's trying everything he can not to get hit, and it wasn't even a tough fight. They weren't even tough zombies, so I don't know what the deal was. And they get through, and so they had been told the previous session. I guess these guys don't take notes. I mean, my notes aren't amazing. And sometimes I don't even write down the notes I should. I'm not saying I've got perfect notes. But if you're told one thing about if you're told about a magic weapon by a ghost, and that the magic weapon is in this dungeon, would you not write down where that magic weapon was? And so they get done killing those zombies. Well, then they're in the room where the magic weapon is. It's where they were told the magic weapon is. And and they're like, well, we want to loot the bodies. So I'm like, okay. And so I roll on the table to see what they get. And I'm like, okay. And so you got the three dead zombies, and now there are 3 statues of knights holding swords along the wall, because one of the knights is holding the magic sword, right? And they're like, okay, well, is there anything special about those? I'm like, I mean, they just look like stone statues to you, unless you investigate them further. And so like, oh well, we'll just move on. I'm like, they didn't loot the dragon horde. I shouldn't have let them loot the dragon horde last night. I did, but they only remembered the dragon horde because I mentioned it. I really gotta stop mentioning things. I feel bad though because when I play the game, I want all the stuff, right? I want I want the magic weapons. I want the golds to get better gear so that I can survive the fights better. I want the fights. I want the story. I want the quest. And they're just like, la di da di da. We killed the dragon. Let's move on. I'm like, okay. And so, anyways, I'm like, the ghost did tell you, oh, is one of the swords magic? I'm like, maybe. I'm like, well, how do we tell? I'm like, well, you could see if the swords are not just part of the statue, I guess. You know what? I'm gonna take 10 minutes to cast detect magic. I'm like, okay, if everybody's fine with that, and so they were, and so I rolled the loot for the zombies and gave them their weird loot because the book has got weird loot tables for what goes on in a dungeon. Um, and it was some funny stuff like head of a fish, that looks like it had been chewed on and stuff like that. And so they get the sword, and then they go through the next place, and they meet the ghost, who's the main point, basically, of this dungeon, is a ghost who can tell them what's going on. And but they don't ask any good questions, so they didn't get any of the information she had except that she's trapped and that the bad guy for this segment, Ralakai, what he's doing could unleash the demon, and uh, and that um, she gave him the ritual on how to kill the demon, should they ever get that far. And so then they leave, and they're like, all right, we want to go back to town. I'm like, well, it's almost nighttime, and you do have a large group of people with you who are severely wounded, and um, you should probably spend the night here before moving on, or I guess you could trudge off, and then, so the DM guy who DMs the other knights, he cheats for his characters hardcore, and I don't mean like every item is for him, but I mean like he decided that the artificer class can make magic items just on a whim, and so his character just on a whim makes magic items, right? And so then he's playing an artificer again in this one, a super annoying artificer too. I feel like it's broken. Maybe not at higher levels, but at lower levels, it's hardcore broken. Every turn he gets to replenish people's hit points every turn. And like there's no limit to it, and I feel like there should be a limit to it. Um, they get to some smart guys who see him do that though. They're gonna start targeting his little dude, for sure. And but so uh, it's got a little robot with him, and the robot pulses hit points every turn, basically. And anybody within like 30 feet or something gets hit points, which makes it hard to do any damage to people. I'm not saying I want my characters to die, but it also takes away a lot of the risk. And so there's not a lot of struggle going on right now with these guys. And so, anyways, so they take the people back to town, and they get stopped by some guards, and And then this is where the lack of notes comes into play, even worse than the sword. They have a quest that involves, where am I? How did I get here? And where is the way out? There it is. They have a quest that requires them to, wasn't require them, but they were asked to get coal. Coal. Nope, that's what I'm after. Food. And so they're supposed to take the food back to one of the council members, a woman named Kadra. And so they get back to town, and what do? They go to the wrong person. Because they know they're supposed to deliver food. They remember that part. But they don't know who to take it to. Because apparently none of them have notes. And so they go to the inn and not the councilwoman, and then they go to the innkeeper because she does have a quest for them. But the quest is to find tents, which are in another dungeon, which they haven't got to yet. And so I'm like, they're like, yeah, this is where we're supposed to bring the food. And I'm like, she doesn't have any idea what you're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? She's the one that gave us the quest for the food. Like, yeah, she does not. She never said anything to you about food. She doesn't know what you're talking about. She could definitely pass it out to her people, the refugees who are staying at the inn, but she's not the one who gave you a quest about food. And they're like, oh, well, never mind then. We don't go to her. I'm like, well, I mean, on top of that, you have all those sick and wounded refugees. And they're like, I'm going to tell her to go get the council and bring him back here. And I'm like, you're what? So, yeah, we're going to tell her to bring us the council. I'm like, why would she bring you the council? What do you mean? I'm like, well, I mean, she's the innkeeper for this town. Your people she met once. Dang it, I knew that was going to happen. Why would she care that you want to speak to the town council? Well, I mean, we need to see the council. I'm like, so go to the council. But we got all these people. Yeah, you do. So you gotta figure out what to do with them. I don't understand what's happening here. You guys play D&D all the time. This isn't a sudden surprise event that you never have controlled a character or events before. What are you doing? You guys have gone crazy. So they take the people to the church, and the priestess there helps them bring in the wounded and clear some benches and start casting spells to heal them and stuff like that. And so then they decide that Kadra must be the one that does the food, and so the one he goes, the DM, he's like, I mean, I'm the DM, but the DM from the other nights, he's like, I will go and I will talk to Kadra. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, and so I'm going to take my thief because my thief runs fastest. I'm like, yeah, he does. Runs away fastest. And I'm like, all right. And so he's on his way there, and I'm like, this will be great. You're sending the guy who told a lie to speak to Kadra. And she caught you in the lie. This will be great. And he's like, oh my guy realizes that then halfway there and turns around and comes back. I'm like, all right, metagamers, I think we've reached the end of metagaming for tonight. You guys have been doing a lot of it. And you need to stop. My sister came down to talk to me while we were in battle, and so I'm like, I need a minute, and so I muted my mic, and then they proceeded to try and plan out the entire fight while I was talking to my sister. I'm just like, all right, you metagamers, y'all need to stop. This is too much. You guys need to start taking your turns and making decisions for your own characters. And so, I mean, some metagaming is okay, but this was ridiculous amounts. And so it's one thing to have your characters stop and make a plan, or, be like, all right, I'm gonna do this, you should probably do this. No, this was, I'm gonna move here and use this ability, and you should move your character there and use this ability, and then we're gonna, um, the bad guys will probably do this, and then so the next round looks like this. I'm like, no, that's too much. That's a chess game. We're not in a chess game. We're in a fight. I'm thinking of changing the rules when we play the other version of D&D I'm currently working on, so that everybody has to declare what they're doing, and then we run it, rather than everybody um, doing their thing, one after the other. I know it's supposed to make it less chaotic, but I think you could just take your turn. I think everybody could declare what they're going to do for their turn, and then it happens, because it's supposed to be 6-second segments of the fight. And so it's really weird for one person to take their turn and then the next person to take their turn. And so there's 5 of them. So that's 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds while the bad guys stand around for 24 seconds of that. I don't think so. But that's a different thing. And so they finally talk to Kadra. They get her the food. She tells them to go get Palmine, who's this other council member who has spells as well that can help. And then there's an event that's happening, and so I started teasing that event. And so they tried to follow this woman they saw skulking about, and well, she ducked into a corner and cast invisibility on herself when they couldn't see her. How much coal did I get? It's not bad. Oh, crap. Well. Let's see. Hey, you didn't get on. Get on. My home is over there. And so, yeah, so they finally all meet back up at the church, and then they talk to Palmine. They have a quest to turn into Palmine. They have it. They didn't write anything down, though, and I didn't mention it. I did a lot better at not giving them choices. Because it should be more of a you figure this out thing, and less of a here's a choose your own adventure. And now they don't read their notes, or I ain't got my notes open right now. Well, open them. We're playing the game. When else are you gonna have them open? I don't understand. I don't understand. But, yeah. And I think that's about where we quit. And I figured up the XP. They didn't get a lot of XP last night, but I do give XP for finishing quests, um, and talking to major NPCs for the first time. But they only fought 3 things, and so they only got like 60 XP last night. And so each. Um, and the DM was like, that doesn't seem like a lot of XP. I feel like we should have got more XP. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. You think we should have got more XP? Well, I'd like to point out that we got. Oh, look, I got a bunch of niter right here. I have so much nitrate powder. Wow. I'm like to point out that you killed 3 things, and so when we play your game and we only get XP for things we killed, you guys should have gotten 30 XP tonight because you only killed 30 XP worth of bad guy. So you want to complain some more about how much XP you got. It's not my fault you were slow and confused and didn't know where you were going. Let's see. I need some bullets. Oh. I guess I did need that lead. Well, dang. Apparently I got no bullet tips. Ooh. Check it out. It's meat stew time, though. My first full batch of potatoes. Oh, that's a growing. Dang it. Oh, I just ruined my corn crop. Meat, corn, meat, fat, potatoes. Sort. I need water as well. I bet I don't get 7, though. Okay, I get 17. Do I have more than that? I don't think so. Meat stew takes... It does. I could do one more. Huh. Meat stews for days, apparently. So yeah, I've been working on what I'm calling classless D&D, breaking down regular 5e D&D. I'm getting pretty close to having it ready to go. The idea is that in regular D&D you choose a class, and then as you level up, you get abilities, and which is cool. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with regular D&D. I love playing regular D&D. But I wanted to try something to a little more based around what you do and a little less what class you've chosen. And so the idea is that there aren't experience points. Instead, when you do something, you get a point. So if I try to lift a heavy rock, I get a point in strength, right? Because that's lifting a heavy rock. Um, if I don't know, shoot a bow, I get a point in dexterity. And so I've taken what they say is the average amount of fights and my knowledge of how many fights occur or how many rounds occur in a normal fight. And so usually a fight lasts around 4 rounds of combat, 3 to 4 rounds of combat. And it said that the average number of fights per level should be around 8. Could be more, could be less, but 8. 8 seemed high to me, but I went with 8. And so if you go 4 rounds in combat and you do 8 combats, that's 32. So I rounded it up to 40. And so every 40, well, it increases as you go up because you need more and more experience to go up to your next level. So it gets harder to level. And so 40 is the first level, anyways. And so at 40, you would get points in whatever it is you were doing. So what it lets me do is instead of getting an ability, you still get abilities, but you get to choose what abilities you want, but they're based on how you play the game. So if you do a lot of strength stuff, then you're going to get more strength points, and you'll use those strength points. But if you play a little bit more rounded, then you might get more points in other things, and so you're probably going to wind up with more abilities than you do in regular D&D, but they will be streamlined according to how you play the game and not just granted to you. And so I've mostly got how many times you do something to level up, how many times you do something to increase your proficiency. So like you level up strength and you get strength points. The other things you use will go up in proficiency. So if you use so let's say you chose a dagger as your weapon. So you use a dagger, you get a point in dagger. Every time you use the dagger, it gets more points. Well, when you get enough points, it goes up in proficiency. So now you get to add your proficiency bonus to your dagger attack, a +1. Um, and so I increased the amount of proficiency available in the game because the regular game goes up to 6 points. I increase it to 10, so you get a proficiency point every 2 levels. Because it's weird to me that yes, you are a fighter, but no fighter in the world is good with every weapon. But in D&D, if you're a fighter, you're good with every weapon. It doesn't matter how obscure what it is, you're good with it. And I don't think someone who's good at using a short sword, which is a stabbing weapon, would be as good at using something like a sickle just automatically. I've got a +6 to my proficiency in all weapons, so I can switch from short sword to sickle at will. But what I'm hoping is this will push them to look at some more social gameplay, and looking for trainers. I'm doing with spells too, so you probably you could end up with more spells than normal. I think magic's going to be a little harder to get into, but the idea is that you shoot a fireball, right? Fireball is evocation magic, so you get a point in the evocation magic. And so as you level up your evocation magic, you get more spell slots that are specifically for evocation magic. And so like you start with a cantrip, fire bolt. You shoot firebolt a few times, you level up evocation magic. So now you have a level 1 spell slot. So now you can also learn a level 1 spell. And so if you can find someone who has a level 1 spell, bam, you've got a level 1 evocation spell. And then when you level that up to level 2, you have access to level 2 evocation spells. So like that. And kind of like Skyrim, only without the level ups. So, all right. Anyways, that's what I've been working on, sort of in my spare time here and there. It's taken a long time. I'm working on it for like a month now, and I'm about maybe a third of the way done with going through things. So, but with that, be better than the small things, lean into the light. I will talk to you later.